What's going on, everybody? Kalipis Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, I'm going to be giving you some tips and tricks for the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G that you might not know about. So let's get started. So the first thing I want to show you is a feature called attentive display. What this is going to do is basically use the front-facing camera to detect your face, so as long as you're looking at the phone, it's not going to fall asleep. This is great because having a really long screen timeout time might not be the most convenient thing to do, especially if you're trying to save battery. And in addition to this, the screen timeout time on this phone doesn't really get that long. So if you're doing lots of content consumption, maybe you're watching a long video or maybe reading, something like that, the attentive display feature in general is going to be quite a bit more effective. So to activate this feature, what we're going to do is go to Settings. From here, we're going to go to Advanced Features. From this menu, go to Motions and Gestures, and toggle on Keep Screen On while viewing. And now, like I said before, with this feature on, as long as you're actually looking at your phone, it's not going to fall asleep. The next thing I'm going to show you is a feature called Adaptive Brightness. Now, Adaptive Brightness is going to adjust the brightness of your display based on your environment. So if you're maybe outside or something like that in a really bright environment, it's going to brighten up the display so it's easier to see. But then if you're in the dark where you don't need the display to be as bright, it's going to dim it so it can save battery and make the phone a little bit easier on your eyes. So activating this feature is really simple. First thing we're going to do is go to Settings. From here, go to Display. And from here, toggle on Adaptive Brightness right here. And as you can see, it dimmed the display quite a bit because I didn't need it nearly as bright. But if we go in a brighter environment, in that situation, of course, it's going to brighten the display to make it easier to see. Now, this feature is not for everyone though, because some people just like to have the brightness at 100% at all times, which I definitely understand. But if you haven't used this feature before, definitely give it a try because who knows, you might end up liking it. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you is how to show and hide your battery percentage on the status bar. As you can see right here, the battery percentage is right up here. I know a lot of people like to have it like this, but some people don't. Maybe you want to make your status bar look a little bit more minimalistic. And if that's the case, it's really easy to get rid of. So all you need to do is go to Settings. From here, go to Notifications. From the notification menu, go to Advanced Settings. And right up at the top, under the status bar section, you're going to see something that says show battery percentage. Now by default, this is going to be on, but again, if you don't want the battery percentage to show, just simply toggle it off. And as you can see, it's gone now, so the status bar does look a little bit more minimalistic. Now, in case you're wondering, by not having the battery percentage up here, you're not really missing a whole lot, because if you want to see it, all you really need to do is just pull down the shade like this, and it's going to be here anyway. So that's a nice compromise. You can always keep it off your status bar, but still get really easy access to your actual battery percentage if you want. But of course, it's really up to personal preference. Again, I know a lot of people actually like having the battery percentage up here. So if you're one of those people, then you don't really need to do anything because again, by default, it is going to be on. Now I'm going to show you a couple shortcuts for your power key. Now by default, if you double press this button, it's going to open up your camera, which is definitely a nice feature to have. And you can do this from anywhere on your phone. So say we're in an app, double press the power key, and it's going to open up the camera. And even when your phone is locked, it still works all the same. So it's a nice way to have quick and easy access to your camera. So that way, if you want to capture something really quickly in the moment, this gives you a shortcut to get there faster. But let's say you have a third-party camera app, or maybe even Snapchat, or maybe you don't even want to use your camera. Maybe you want to use something completely different. Well, you can actually use this shortcut to open pretty much any app you want on your phone. To do this, we're going to go to Settings. From here, go to Advanced Features. And from this menu, go to Side Key. So as you can see here, by default, double pressing the power key is going to open the camera like I just showed you, but you can also hit Open App. And when you hit the gear here, you can select any app you want. So for this example, I'm just going to use Snapchat. Now if I double press the power key, it's going to open Snapchat. And again, you can use this to open any app on your phone. You just have to hit the gear here and select whatever you want to use. Now you can also change what happens when you press and hold this button. By default, it is going to open Bixby, which is basically the virtual assistant in case you don't know. And in case you're wondering, even with this default setting, it's actually pretty easy to get to the power menu. All you need to do is pull down your shade twice, so 1, 2, and see this power icon right here. Press this, and it's going to open your power menu. But if you don't use Bixby at all, you can always have it open the power menu when you press and hold the power key. So if we go like this, now if we press and hold the button, it's going to open the power menu instead of you having to pull down the shade. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to change your refresh rate. Now, in case you don't know, this phone actually has a 90Hz display, which is basically going to make the movement on the screen a little bit faster and smoother. So when you're consuming content like streaming videos, playing games, that sort of thing, you're going to get a better experience overall. And when you're just navigating through the phone in general, it's going to feel a little bit more premium. But the downside to this is a higher refresh rate does use a little bit more power, so your battery might not last as long. Now, does this make a huge difference? Not really. But if you want to save as much battery as possible, you can switch it back to a 60Hz display. And honestly, it doesn't really make a whole lot of difference in your overall experience. Videos and games and just navigating through the phone is still going to be great. So even though a 60Hz display isn't quite as good quality and it doesn't really feel as premium, the difference isn't really going to be that crazy. So if you do want to switch it back to a 60Hz display, what you're going to want to do is go to Settings. From here, go to Display. And from this menu, go to Motion Smoothness. And as you can see, by default, it is set to high, but you can change it to standard. Be sure to hit apply. And now we just have a regular 60Hz display. I don't know if you actually noticed the difference. Probably not, I'm guessing. But again, like I said before, the difference isn't really that drastic. Now, I personally would just leave it at 90Hz because the difference in battery life in my experience isn't really too huge either. But it's really up to you. If you don't care about the 90Hz display and you'd rather just save battery, then definitely change it to 60Hz. Otherwise, you can always leave it and it's probably not going to change a whole lot. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to create a screen recording. This is a real easy thing to do. All you need to do is pull down your shade twice. 1, 2. And the screen recorder is right here. Tap on the icon. And it's going to ask us a couple questions. First of all, we got the sound settings. By default, it's going to be media sounds. So if you're playing music or a video or something like that on your phone when you're recording, it's going to pick up all that sound. You can also have it record media sounds and mic. So if you want to narrate the screen recording, or you could have it have no sound at all. You can also show taps and touches. So whenever you touch the screen, a little dot's going to show up. When you're ready to start recording, hit start recording. There's going to be a little countdown. And now we are recording. As you can see up here, there is a menu bar, so you can draw on the screen. You can actually record yourself. So there's me right there. And as you can see, when I touch the screen, there is a little dot that shows up. Oh, I just turned off the screen. And that's one thing, when you lock the screen during a screen recording, it's automatically going to stop it. But otherwise, if you're in the middle of a screen recording, you can also hit the pause button. And then of course, if you hit record again, it's going to resume. And then when you actually want to stop the screen recording and you don't just lock the screen by accident, you can go ahead and hit stop and it's going to be saved right to your photos. If you pull down the shade like this, you're going to see in your notification center, it actually does have a notification about it, so you can view it in your photos from here. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to use the edge panel. Now essentially, the edge panel is this little tab right here. If we pull it out, it's going to give us some shortcuts, but you can definitely customize this quite a bit. So to do this, you're going to hit these lines down here. Hit edit. And as you can see, anything down here you can add and remove whatever apps you want. For whatever reason, the calculator, gallery, and calendar can't be removed or changed. But everything else, again, you can add and remove whatever you want. In addition to this, you can actually have more than just apps on your edge panel. So to add different kinds of stuff, we can go to settings. From here, go to display. And edge panels is going to be all the way near the bottom. So right here. And as you can see, by default, the panels are only going to show apps, but if we tap here, you can see we can add all kinds of different stuff. So people, you can add your contacts on here. Smart select, I actually don't know what that does. Tasks, weather, all kinds of different stuff. And even things you can get from the Galaxy store, so you can really customize the edge panel and make it your own. Now if we go back to the main edge panel menu, you can also go to the handle section to customize its appearance. And in case you don't know, the handle is this little line right here, so customizing that is really not going to do a whole lot, but all the same, it's kind of cool that we got these options. And then of course, as cool as I think it is, the edge panel isn't for everyone, so if you don't like it, maybe you never actually use it and you only open it by accident, in that case it might be more of a nuisance than anything, so you can always disable it. And as you can see, there's no more edge panel. The next thing I'm going to show you is a feature called one-handed mode. As the name of the feature suggests, this basically makes the phone quite a bit easier to use with one hand. So first things first, let me show you how to actually activate the feature. First thing we're going to do, as always, is go to settings. From here, go to advanced features. And from here, go to one-handed mode. As you can see, by default, for whatever reason, it's off. So we're going to enable this. And as you can see, the default setting is a gesture, and this is basically how you get into it. You're gonna slide your finger down like this, and that's basically it. Now if you have gesture navigation, this is the only way to activate it, but if you have button navigation, you can actually switch it to button, and this is gonna allow you to access one-handed mode just by double tapping this button. At the end of the day, both of these methods are really easy, but of course you can choose whichever one you're most comfortable with. But essentially, this is one-handed mode. As you can see, it shrinks everything quite a bit to make it much easier to use with one hand. You can also change its position with this little arrow right here. You can also move it and resize it. It's not the easiest thing to do, but as you can see right here, I can move it up and down. And you can also resize it as well, which is actually a little bit easier than moving it. And when it comes to resizing the display, the trick is to grab it a little bit outside the top right corner. I found that that works a little bit better. And as you can see, I got it, so we can make it smaller. And then to exit one-handed mode, tap on the area outside the display like this, and we're back to normal. So one-handed mode is really cool, and while it might sound easy to access by accident, I've never actually done it before. Not that it couldn't happen, but it's definitely not something to worry about. But then again, if you don't use the feature and you don't anticipate on ever having to use it, you can always disable it. The next thing I'm going to show you is a feature called Dual Messenger. Now this feature basically makes it easier to log into two accounts at once on one app. So for example, Snapchat. If you have two different Snapchat accounts, Dual Messenger is going to give you two different copies of the Snapchat app, so you can log into both accounts at once without having to sign out of one and log into the other. Now in this day and age, this feature is only so useful since stuff like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they all have this feature kind of built into the app itself at this point, but there's still some platforms like for example Snapchat where Dual Messenger does come in handy. So to get to this feature, we're going to go to Settings. From here, once again, go to Advanced Features. And in this menu, Dual Messenger is going to be the very last thing at the bottom. And as you can see, these are the available apps I have. Again, not really a whole lot. There are a lot of things like even Facebook Messenger, I don't think it's even necessary here because Facebook Messenger easily allows you to switch between accounts. But Snapchat, it does come in handy because as far as I know, you can't have multiple accounts on Snapchat in one app. You'd actually have to log out of one and into the other. So if you have two Snapchat accounts, that can be useful. So although Dual Messenger isn't quite as useful as it once was, there's still definitely some situations where it comes in handy. The last thing I'm going to show you is a feature called Eye Comfort Shield, and this is basically something that tints the screen in an amber color, and this helps filter out blue light and makes the display a little bit easier on your eyes. This is a great feature to use at night. A lot of people even use it together with dark mode, and it's also great if maybe you want to keep your display at 100% brightness, but you don't want it to be too hard on your eyes. So to activate this feature, go to Settings. From here, go to Display, and Eye Comfort Shield is right here under Motion Smoothness. And as you can see, the display is a little bit warmer, and we can customize some settings as well. By default, it is going to be adaptive, which I personally think is really cool. It's basically going to adjust the colors slightly just based on the environment and the time of day. If you've ever used iOS, this is essentially the same thing as the iPhone's True Tone. Now you can also customize this by hitting Custom. And as you can see, you can make it stronger or more subtle. And then of course you can also schedule it, so you can have it turn on from sunset to sunrise, keep it on at all times, or use a custom time. But this concludes my tips and tricks video for the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you found this information useful as well. Once again, if you want to learn more about this phone, be sure to check out my full review and beginner's guide for it on the channel. But that's it for this video. As always, I will see you in the next one.